I thought my first freelance job was going to prove that I was good at IT. Instead, I had to admit that nothing was working. My first freelance job was installing security cameras, 2 indoor cameras for the house and 1 dash cam system for the car. When I was asked to go and do this position, I felt like this was it. This is the perfect moment to hop on my first ever freelance IT gig. This is the moment where I stopped being someone who is just studying IT and actually began to do the work of it. I showed up confident, tools ready, cameras ready, mindset ready, but at least I thought I was ready. And listen, getting the first camera to work was very smooth, but everything else went downhill after that. Mounting the first camera and the second camera went pretty smooth. We were running the cables and going into positioning, so there was really no issue there. So the first house camera ends up powering on, which was a huge relief, of course, or actually, I guess not really because nothing went wrong yet. But as I try to access the dashboard to go and view the system for this camera, I cannot get this camera to connect to the phone. So now my brain begins to juggle this problem. So I decide to go to the next camera. Before we end up figuring out how to connect this to the phone, let me at least turn this next camera on. And y'all would not believe me. When I plugged this camera into the wall, nothing was working, and I began to do a lot of the troubleshooting that you are supposed to do when that happens. Change the wire out or plug it into a different socket, but this camera would not turn on. So now, from here, one camera is dead and the other one cannot connect to the dashboard. Things aren't looking so good, and the client continues to walk by asking if everything is good, and I'm responding, yeah, I'm just finishing up on some configuration. Deep down, I was panicking. My stress level was rising super fast, and I began to start troubleshooting everything. I checked the router to make sure if that was the issue. I checked connections, I double-checked cables, I re-entered credentials. Still no dashboard access, dead camera is still not working. And here is the humbling part. For over an hour, I realized for the first camera that ended up powering on, and the reason why it would not connect to the dashboard was because I was connecting on the wrong network. The whole time, I was trying to diagnose a problem that wasn't even there. When I finally noticed, it was one of those slow, painful moments and realizations. You know, that heavy drop in your stomach? Because it just wasn't some complex networking issue. It was such a simple mistake. Literally, just switch to the correct network. And instantly the dashboard ends up loading up. The working camera feed pops up and I just had to sit there for a second. I'm like, bruh. Simply relieved, but truly embarrassed. Because that minor mistake cost me over an hour. And trust me, it hit my ego hard. But the job was not done. The second house cam still would not connect at all, no matter what I tried. Different port, different cable, factory reset, direct connection test, nothing. It was just completely dead. So I had to move on from this camera, and I was afraid to explain to them that this wasn't working. So I decided to get to the third camera, which was the dash cam camera in the car. And when I began this one also threw me for a loop, because as I was trying to figure it out and diagnose why this camera was not powering on, it turned out that it is one of the wires. So I didn't necessarily have another wire to be able to check if maybe it just needed a new wire. So my current diagnosis was just maybe it was not hot wired to the car correctly. But that was all I had. An assumption, a guess. Granted, an educated one, but I could not fix it. So now I'm standing there with one working camera, one dead camera, and one dead dash cam camera. Or I guess not dead, but just not receiving power. And this is the moment that really hurt. I had to go and tell the client. I had to say, 2 of these systems are not working. And that felt like failure because honestly, in my mind of what an IT support specialist is you go there to fix whatever is needed to be fixed, not walk away with things undone. We fix things, we solve problems. But this was not that. But what I had to learn is that sometimes the wires are defective. Sometimes the fix isn't as simple. Sometimes the plug is faulty. Sometimes the wiring kit is not functioning. but that is still a part of the IT work. But when it's your first freelance gig, it does not feel that way. It feels like you messed up. And I began to explain everything clearly to this client. I showed them the working camera, I explained the dead camera and what the cause may be, which is we're gonna need a new damn camera, maybe a hardware issue. And then I explained the dash cam possibly being you need to take this wire out and replace it, and or make sure the hot wire is done properly and maybe the wire is loose on the inside. And it just sucked that I couldn't be the one to fix that based on the knowledge that I had. And I braced for frustration, but that was not what I was met with. They weren't angry, they just wanted clarity. They appreciated that I walked them through what didn't work and what did work. And that moment honestly changed everything for me, because I realized freelance is not about perfection, it's about composure. And it's about how you handle things when things don't go so smoothly. I went home replaying this small network mistake in my head over and over, stressing, embarrassed about it. And that one hurt the most, because it was so predictable but easily preventable. But that mistake did burn something in my head. Always verify the basics. Network power connection. Slow down for assuming it's complicated and it's a bigger deal. And the bigger lesson, not everything working doesn't mean that I failed. IT is troubleshooting. IT is diagnostics. IT is identifying defective components. IT is identifying when it's time to send this to someone higher up. If everything always worked perfectly, trust me, there wouldn't be a job. That freelance gig definitely bruised my ego, but it strengthened my mindset. So now when something doesn't power on, I don't panic. When something won't connect, I do not take it personally. I verify, I communicate, and I stay steady, because sometimes the system is faulty. And the real mistake is acting like that's not what happened. That job did not go how I imagined, but it gave me something better than a flawless install. It gave me resilience. And honestly, that lesson was worth more than everything just going perfectly. So that was my freelance reality check.